Hello, I'm going to gather in a few of the beans. Normally I wouldn't harvest these until probably end of October or early November, but it's been so wet and I think there's a risk of some of these actually rotting on the vines. There's a lot of them are already very ripe and in fact seeds have dried out and dropped on the floor. So now I am going to harvest, not all of them, but the ones that look the most ripe. All the ones in dried pods, because those ones I can save and use as seed for next year. And if you're very good at remembering to put beans in to soak the day before you need them, then those are perfectly okay to finish drying out in the kitchen and use them for that. For those of us who are truly hopeless at remembering to do things like that, I just use them as seeds for the next year's crop. It's been so wet here recently that some of these pods are just covered in mildew, and the beans inside are rotting. So I'm not keeping those. I really only want to take the pods that are absolutely full. I can kind of feel that they are full so that the beans will be largest. This is a variety called Greek Gigantes beans, and I rave about these every year. So they are a runner bean, but they aren't grown for the green pods. They're grown for the white bean in the centre of the pod. Now you can compost these, or because I make compost on the pathways, I just drop them on the path. And these beans need to be boiled for about 10 minutes, and then they are soft and creamy, and they taste like buttery mashed potato. Yum. I'm really very pleased with the number of pods there are this year. Despite it having been a cool summer and a very wet one, the beans have produced a really heavy crop, which I'm very pleased about. This poor old branch here, the cane got snapped in one of the storms, but I left it for the beans to grow on. So mostly I'm harvesting the beans lower down so that these have more time to mature. This is probably as much as I want to harvest in one day, because I then want to process them and cook them, cool them down and get them into the freezer. And that's quite a task, all for one day, when I've got other things that I want to be doing too. I think one of the joys of gardening are being able to share plants with people. And here I've got a whole load of plants I've been given by friends, and it's time for me to get them up into the garden. This is a buddleia. It's called Royal Red, so it's a sort of cerise pinky red. And back here I've got another buddleia. This is a white one. In fact, there's two of them. Isn't this pretty? So I was given this by a friend, and I can't remember its full name, but I will put the name on the screen. But you can see what it does. It does these lovely pink flowers, late summer, early autumn. And all of these are seedlings that have been self-sown around my friend's garden. and so I know that it spreads nicely. Here is some stachys, so the lamb's ears, that very soft spreading ground cover. Now these are in fact not given by a friend, these are josterberries, they're cuttings I took myself. There's this very lovely red flowered hesperantha. There is a lysimachia. It's got very dark leaves and little yellow flowers. Oh, I'm running out of space. This is a canna, which my friend Jane gave me. And actually I'm not going to go and put it in the garden. I'm going to repot it and put it into the greenhouse, because that won't cope with our cold temperatures here. And this is, it's a good job my friends label these things. It's a helianthus, so it has yellow, it's almost looking like sunflower flowers on it. This is a Japanese anemone, it's a pink one, and you can see how this desperately needs to get into the ground. And here we have what I think is a persicaria. Let's check, it's got a label, so it is. It is persicaria. Runcinata Purple Fantasy. What it has got is beautiful reddy stems, it's got the dark purple in the foliage, and then it has tiny little white flowers. I very much like that. Now a lot of these are plants that will spread quite rapidly, and that's good for me. And here's one that I bought. It's a cirsium. Have I got space in here for that? Yes. And in the far corner I can see there's some seed heads from the cirsium, but I'm going to pot those up separately in the greenhouse in a little while. This is bed number 16 in my vegetable garden, although it doesn't look very vegetably at the moment. It's very full of weeds, and I haven't really attended to it very much, well, all year. So I thought today I would come through, clear some of the weeds, lift some of the ferns that are here, because they've taken hold very well and starting to spread through the bed quite rapidly, and I don't want all of them in here. So I'll move those down to the forest garden, and then I will bring some used duck bedding up here to mulch with, to give it a boost in terms of nutrients, a boost in terms of soil structure, and also just to kind of prepare it for next growing season when I will get some vegetables in here. There's a lot of creeping buttercup which has come in from the field. I put in here probably about 18 months ago a whole load of pretty well rotted horse manure, which had been up in the field for my guess would be years. I didn't put it up there, previous owners put it there. It was very well rotted down, but it will have had a lot of weed seeds in it. This is a narrow leaf plantain, or it's just a plantain, but it hasn't got the broad leaves. So I'm going to call it the narrow leafed one, although I don't think that's its proper name. But this is great to have around the garden. I've got lots of it around the garden. But it is good because the leaves can be used to combat the stinging nettles. And I know we were always told to use dock leaves, but actually this works even better. Crush it up, use a little bit of saliva to make a kind of a paste, and put that onto wherever you've been stung by a stinging nettle, and it really does soothe it. Now what I have got growing in here are some young rhubarb. they haven't done very well for the last couple of years, but maybe they've had too much competition from weeds. I have a kneeling pad and a little stool that I sit on. So the kneeling pad is a cushion that I've then put into a plastic bag, which saves it from getting very wet. I just have to remember to put it away in the polytunnel at the end of each gardening session. And then the little stool or a chair that you saw me sitting on is a children's play chair, which my children had some 38 years ago. I bought for my son, maybe even longer than that actually. Now this is a dock. That's going to be quite hard to get out. I'm going to probably need to slice a spade down the side of it to get those roots out, because they're going to be deep. But in the meantime, I can take the grasses and the other small weeds from around it. So I've managed to get the big dock out of there, and I'm left with quite a nice space here to be able to plant something in. And really this is for next year, but in the meantime I thought I would get something in here. So I have found 2 greyhound cabbages, which I should have put into the ground a very long time ago, but I might as well give it a go and see how they get on. When I first made these beds, I laid a membrane over the ground and built a frame. And that membrane is plastic free. It's a cornstarch membrane. It takes about 3 years to start breaking down. So we are now coming into year 3 of this being here. But every time I plant something, I actually break a hole right through that membrane. Which allows the roots to go right down and soil life to come up and through. I'm leaving a bit of stem showing because I've still got the duck bedding to come on here as a mulch, and I don't want to cover them over with mulch, so there we go. I can't see any signs of caterpillars having laid, well, there wouldn't be caterpillars laying eggs. I haven't seen any sign of butterflies laying eggs, which will become caterpillars. There we go. Now this year the slugs have been really difficult in the garden for most people, including me. What hasn't been too bad has been the caterpillar damage, because there have been so few butterflies, which in itself is a bit worrying. And I know everybody's talking about it, but I think it is worth noting. And I am not enough of a... I don't have enough knowledge in biology to know whether, if we have a drier year next year, whether the butterfly population and insect population will pick back up immediately, or whether that's in fact going to take several years for that to happen. Anyway, I'm pleased with this. I think it's time for a cup of tea.